What's going on, everybody? This is AJ here at The Hero Informer, and here Batman, this absolute behemoth of a vigilante, is now fighting against the mutated version of one of his iconic villains, Mr. Freeze. Not only that, but there seems to be trouble brewing within Bruce and his little friend group here, a group of his childhood friends who later become, in the main universe, his most iconic and deadliest villains. And it's kind of funny because we pick up where we left off, where we see Bruce Wayne under the disguise of being just some random electrician, being dragged away by this absolute Mr. Freeze to be involved in whatever experimentation this mutated monster has in store for him. But even as Bruce tries to fight back, in the weakened and almost infected state he is in now, he is no match for this superhuman, this unnatural demon almost. And as soon as Bruce passes out, he immediately wakes up in the middle of a chamber. Seeing just how much of a beefcake this absolute Batman is, he still gets put under all the same. As absolute Mr. Freeze goes on to say, "I hope you enjoyed your rest, because from now on, there won't be any sleeping in the ice after all. The pain won't let you." That's right, just look around you, you're in high company. They are some of Gotham's most wealthiest members. All of them came here at the end of their lives, believing that the ice, being put under the ice to be frozen and awaken an untold number of years later, for whatever reason, if they were sick, maybe they were just too old and needed better care, but all of them came here looking for an escape of the natural end of their lives, believing that the ice could be the escape. But oh boy, were they wrong, because the ice, no, it isn't salvation. It's the memory of all we want to forget. It's vengeance. As just then he douses Bruce Wayne and freezes him just like all the others. But Mr. Freeze goes on to elaborate what he means by it's the memories, because as he goes on to say, as your temperatures drop, you might feel burning. The hypothermia you're about to experience scrambles the brain, because it's so painful, so agonizing that even while you're under, it's almost like being in a near-death experience constantly over and over. Some people might say and relive some of their best or even worst memories when they're near death, or have like flashbacks. But here in the ice, it seems like that is a constant. Bruce Wayne even living out, his experiences with Black Mask as Batman just previously in the last arc, or even down to the gunman who killed his father when he was a child. Nothing but agony for as long as he is alive within the ice. But also, as we go on to see, issue right here is kind of twofold, Sure, it picks up and it continues on with Bruce's dealing with in the present with absolute Mr. Freeze, but it also goes back and shows us what happened with him in a confrontation with some of his other childhood friends. Specifically, all of this happening before Batman went on the mission to confront Mr. Freeze. But here his friends all group up together after the death of another one of their friends, Matches, who got caught up with all of this Mr. Freeze and everything he's trying to do, which is pretty crazy and we'll get into a little later. But not only that, but they know he is Batman, and they came to try and almost talk him out of this little crazy lifestyle that he has adopted and he is going on, being this vigilante, this Batman, fighting against the very city itself. Waylon Jones, Killer Croc as he would later go to be, going on to even call Bruce, and by extension Batman, a coward. A coward in the sense that Batman is doing all of this, being Batman, because of the traumatic experience and lifestyle that he was brought up, specifically in the fact that his dad, just his father in this universe being murdered, with his mother still being very much alive. Even connecting it back to Matches, their other friend who experienced the same thing. Matches, for whatever reason, felt it was his fault, blaming himself as a child would, trying to rationalize the events and very traumatic experience that happened that led to the death of Thomas Wayne, Bruce's father. Even Bruce himself to the same extent, because he was the one who wanted the class to go on that field trip to the Gotham Zoo, which will be the place that his father loses his life. Waylon Jones almost inferring that Batman and everything that he is doing as his vigilante is almost a trauma response. He still blames himself for the death of his father, so in a way Batman is lashing out, doing all of these crazy things, being a vigilante in the most outlandish way, because Bruce sees his life as expendable, so might as well go out and die one day, trying to help others, being this Batman, because at the very least if he does die, he will go out helping others, being the hero in the same fashion that his dad did, as he saved not only Bruce but his entire class, which we will go to find out that this is the wrong way of thinking, and Bruce will even confront this. But for now, Bruce is going to have to confront something more physical and very much darker. As you could over back to the present with this Mr. Freeze, this mutated creature talking to someone. It looks like Mr. Freeze isn't just acting on his own accord. He is planning and still intertwined with whatever larger picture is going on here in Gotham, which we know is the Joker. He has his little hands and grimy little fingers in everything, from Black Mask to this mysterious Ark M project and prison that they're building off of Gotham to experiment on people and do whatever evil things they need to do over there. But the reason why Mr. Freeze is so crucial to this plan, that whatever the powers that be are planning, is because of his technology and the ice, as he even goes on to say that a bacterium that died off 100,000 years ago, now currently untraceable, he has little markers inside of that same snow, the snow that is falling down upon Gotham, and anyone whose skin it touches, it's able to almost read and capture their DNA sequence. And currently they have collected over 92% of the entire city population's genetic profiles. Now again, we aren't too sure what these powers that be are planning to do with the entire city of Gotham's DNA profiles and genetic makeup, but even just saying that now and using common sense, it's obviously nothing good. But maybe Mr. Freeze here could be stopped, as just then a door is kicked in and Batman, after freeing himself from the chamber due to having some of his gear still on him, finally comes knocking in. Now Batman, up to this point, any physical challenge, he has been pretty on top of, even with this fight from Black Mask. Sure, at times the Black Mask might have got a slight upper hand against him due to his technical skill, Batman, just being the beefcake and powerhouse that he is, muscled through. But here, it's so very different. A couple reasons why, really. One, Batman was just being frozen to the core, hypothermia still all in his system. He is weakened and not as fast or strong as he normally would be. And secondly, Mr. Freeze himself, he is very fast and strong, stronger than even Batman. Now, Batman pushes the limits of what a human should realistically be able to be in terms of physical prowess, but Mr. Freeze is unnatural now. He is above human capabilities, as Batman himself even goes on to mention this, saying he's fast. And with his body so cold, his blood feels like slush. And so Batman decides to slow him down, putting a flamethrower straight to Mr. Freeze's face. Yet even still, his face literally on fire and burning, that does nothing but momentarily weaken and slow him down, as Batman realizes he has super strength and he is so much stronger too, because the ice is literally woven into his muscle tissue. Which, if you think logically, doesn't make sense. Like, what? Ice woven into your muscle so you become lengthier, stronger, faster? But hey, it works with this Mr. Freeze too. And he even has other powers, which is kind of cool seeing this Mr. Freeze being so different than just the Iceman in a suit. Even though eventually that version of Mr. Freeze was able to get like low levels of cryokinesis or basically just ice powers. This absolute version of him though is almost like Spider-Man, as we see him sticking and crawling across the wall using his lengthy body in pretty horrifying and unholy ways, grabbing Batman then slamming him against the wall with so much force, so much strength that instantly Batman is down. He says he can feel his rotator cuff is broken and shot. He feels two ribs splintering even as he breathes, which honestly, if I was a betting man right here, I would put my money on Mr. Freeze in this one-on-one confrontation right here. Batman is weakened, and as we can clearly see, Mr. Freeze has the upper hand. He's almost just toying with Batman. But it gets even worse for Batman here, as Mr. Freeze decides, I'm not gonna fight you. You're not worth my time, as he unleashes his little ice army over the different people who are frozen in the same type of chambers that he was, now completely turned into beings like him, almost like zombies in a way. Now, it's unclear how much of their sanity or mind do they still have, but this is life or death for Batman, so he can't really afford to hold back, as he instantly knocks the jaw off of one of the little ice zombies here. But again, as this is happening here in the present, we move back over to the conversation in the past with him and his friends, as Waylon Jones continues on to say, Bruce, I need to ask you something. Do you want to die? Bruce is of course like, what do you mean? Why would I want to die? Waylon simply just asks a second time, you heard me, Bruce, do you want to die? Is that all Batman is to you? A subconscious pushing himself, pushing Bruce to realizing that, he wasn't really supposed to live that day. His father took his place and sacrificed himself instead of potentially Bruce losing his life then. As Waylon continues saying, because your dad, he didn't want to die. And no, it wasn't his death that made him a hero, it was his life. Because dying, whether you die intentionally or unintentionally, if you lived for something good or bad and whatever your legacy was, that's kind of the easy part. You just simply stop. But continuing on, continuing to live and try to strive for something more, that's the hard part. Getting through, not letting the issues or troubles of life crush you. But growing up in Gotham Crime Alley, that's simply what they have to do. They're survivors. So Batman needs to be a survivor too. So now with this understanding, Waylon goes to ask Bruce one more time, does he want to die? And this time Bruce actually has a concrete answer. No. Because even back in the present, he's been completely overwhelmed. Sure, these enemies aren't like particularly strong or anything, not like the actual Mr. Freeze who was just toying with Batman. They're literally falling apart in Batman's hands. He's crushing them like Play-Doh. But it's not the strength that's the problem, it's their numbers. They're overwhelming, they just keep coming. It would be so easy for Bruce just to give up here, His body is suffering, his blood literally feels like slush. It's hard for him to even move. But again, this Batman here is changed from his interaction with Waylon and the rest of his friends from earlier. No, Batman is now a survivor. as he decides to make a tactical retreat. Sure, he could fight here and go down swinging, being what Batman was intended to be. You know, a hero, live out the rest of his days, and whenever his end comes, it comes. Yet now, in Bruce's own head, he realizes the greater purpose that Batman could serve in even Bruce's individual life, so he chooses life. He chooses to live, as he then busts out of there and makes his retreat. But while he's there, he decides to contact Waylon once more, telling him and relaying the information that he learned from Mr. Freeze, that there's something in the snow. There's something more going on than just, you know, freezing people in ice to corrupt them or whatever else Mr. Freeze told Batman from before, but something way larger and way bigger. But Batman couldn't just spill these confidential details over the phone, so he tells Waylon Jones that he'll meet up and fill him in later. But unfortunately, in a hellhole like Gotham, you know, even just seeing the next day unharmed is never promised or guaranteed, as one day Waylon is just going back to his gym, you know? This is just an average night unlike any other until he is approached by a couple agents from before, instantly chloroformed and set unconscious. And these people here, they're not like robbers or anything trying to just rob the gym or even rob Waylon. No, it's something much, much worse. As Waylon Jones himself, he's a pretty beefing and strong man, even to the same level that this absolute Bruce Wayne is as well. So these people here, they're looking for his physique, his physical attributes, even claiming that he's the perfect specimen before loading him up and taking him to this now aforementioned and mysterious Ark M. Now, there's a couple theories and things that could go down here. Now, obviously, this could be signaling, you know, him being tested on for whatever reason, being sent to Ark M to be turned into this universe version of absolute Killer Croc. Or, walk with me here, he could potentially be tested with Venom. Yes, the Venom from Bane, and be the prototype Bane that Batman has to fight against. As we know, the next issue will introduce this absolute Bane. But as always, if you have enjoyed, leave a like, or subscribe if you're new and want to see more content just like this. As always, this was AJ here at The Hero Informer, and thank you for watching.